son's coach benched him for poor performance, but then I discovered the coach was faking stats, so his own son always looked like the star. My son Tyler has been obsessed with basketball since he could walk. He's not the tallest kid on the court, but he's quick, sharp, and he lives for the game. Last season, he was starting point guard and even voted team captain by his teammates. So when this season began and he suddenly got benched, I was stunned. Coach Sanders told me it was poor performance, said Tyler's stats had dropped and he needed to earn his spot back. I didn't want to be that parent, the one who storms in screaming about playing time, so I just encouraged Tyler to keep pushing. But I could tell it was crushing him. He'd come home sweaty, exhausted, saying, "Dad, I don't get it. I'm playing better than ever." At first I thought maybe it was just favoritism, because Coach's son, Aiden, was suddenly the new star. Every game, the announcers rattled off his stats like he was unstoppable. 20 points, 7 assists, flawless shooting. Tyler, meanwhile, sat on the bench and clapped, but something felt off, so I started watching closer. I filmed games on my phone, and the more I compared what I saw with the official stat sheets, the less it added up. Shots that clearly missed counted as makes. Turnovers disappeared. Assists magically credited to Aiden, even when someone else made the pass. The breaking point came at a Friday night game. Tyler got subbed in for 5 minutes. In that short time, I watched him score 6 points, grab 2 steals, and dish out an assist. When the stat sheet was posted after the game, his line read 0 points, 0 steals, 0 assists. I confronted the team manager, who handles the numbers. He looked uncomfortable. "Look, I just enter the stats coach gives me. That's it." That's when it hit me. Coach wasn't just biased. He was actively rewriting history. I brought it up privately after practice. "Coach, why does the stat sheet show my son did nothing tonight? I've got video proving otherwise." His face tightened. "Stats aren't perfect. Maybe you saw it differently." "No, I saw exactly what happened, and you're erasing it." He leaned in closer, lowering his voice. "Listen, Aiden's got scouts watching. This season is critical for him. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I just stared at him. He didn't even deny it. He was openly telling me he was sabotaging other kids' records to pad his son's future. The next day, I showed the video to a few other parents. They were furious. One mom gasped, "My kid had a triple-double last month, but the sheet said he barely played." Another dad muttered, "Explains why Aiden looks like a superhero every week." We talked about bringing it to the school board, but then someone pointed out, if the coach was willing to fake stats this blatantly, what else would he be willing to do to protect his son's image? That night, Tyler came into my room holding his phone. His hands were shaking. "Dad," he whispered, "look at this." It was a group chat screenshot. Aiden and a couple of teammates were in it, laughing about how Tyler's dad is obsessed and saying, "Wait until coach really buries him." Then there was one line that made my blood run cold. "He won't even have a team to play for after next week." I read it until the text bubbles burned like after images behind my eyes. Tyler tried to shrug, but his shoulders were tight, jaw clenched hard enough to creak. "Maybe it's just trash talk," he said. "Trash talk doesn't schedule a date," I said. "Something's coming." I started with the one person who could yank the break, Principal Patel. I asked for a meeting and walked in with receipts, side-by-side clips of plays and official stats, every mismatch highlighted, slowed down, labeled. Patel watched with his elbows on the desk, fingers pressed to his lips like he was holding his face together. "This is serious," he said, after a long minute. "If these stat discrepancies are intentional, they are." He looked at the ceiling. "If I move too fast without a formal review, Sanders will claim we undermined the program mid-season. Parents will take sides. We'll start a fire we can't put out." "It's already burning," I said. "You can smell the smoke." He nodded and promised a preliminary inquiry. I walked out into the hall and past Coach Sanders himself. Clipboard, whistle, smile that didn't hit his eyes. He tipped the clipboard at me like a toast. "Always great to see engaged parents," he said lightly. "I hear you've been passionate." "I hear you're cutting my son," I replied. His smile stiffened just enough to show the wireframe underneath. "Varsity is earned. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." That line again. He'd used it when he told me to look the other way about stats. The velvet on the surface, the blade underneath. Friday's game made the knife visible. Tyler didn't touch the floor. Aiden played 32 straight minutes and recorded a career night that would have made sense if the ball had cooperated. It didn't. I had video of rimmed-out jumpers that somehow became made twos, missed free throws credited as 1 and 1, a turnover that vanished like the ball had fallen into a sewer grate in the spreadsheet. Afterward, the team account on social media posted a graphic. Aiden Sanders, 2879, star. Comments lit up. The kids tagged each other with fire emojis. If you stared hard enough, you could see 15 other kids getting dimmer. Saturday morning, the email hit. Mandatory team meeting, Monday, 6 p.m., roster updates. My phone buzzed like a hive. Parents started texting. "You hearing this? Rumor he's pushing kids to JV. He told my kid to keep his head down." I didn't sleep much that weekend. Instead, I made a plan that felt insane until it didn't. First call. The score table volunteer who'd been working home games since before Aiden could dribble, Mrs. Kirk. She'd always sat near the bookkeeper, a quiet woman with perfectly stacked pencils. I asked if the official book ever differed from what went online. "All the time this season," she said. "Coach sends corrections after games. They're just different." "Do you keep copies of the original book?" She hesitated. "I take photos. In case a ref asks later, could you send me last 5? Ding, ding, ding." Pages slid into my messages. In ink, Tyler's 5-minute burst from 2 weeks ago. 6 points, 2 steals, 1 assist. Online, zeros across. In ink, Aiden's 3rd of November night. Online, 10/16. I thanked her. Second call. The assistant coach, Martinez, who looked like he ate stress for breakfast and never chewed. "Off the record," he said. "I don't touch stats. That's all Sanders in the book. But if you show up Monday with evidence, don't do it alone. He'll try to make it about angry parents instead of what it is." "What is it?" "A coach building a castle on every kid's back." We ended the call. And then came the harder part. Other parents. I invited them to my living room Sunday night. 14 showed up. Some I knew well, some only from bleacher nods. We lined my coffee table with paper plates and stat printouts, and I set my laptop on a stack of cookbooks. I hit play. The room filled with quiet gasps and the occasional profanity. When the clip of Tyler's erased 6 points ended, a mom named Dana put her face in her hands. That night I grounded Evan, took his Xbox for a week for not trying. He had everything you just showed there. I punished my kid for your coach's lie. An older dad, Isaac, tapped the table. "We take this to Patel. He drags his feet. He always drags his feet. And by then, kids are cut. Sanders will say it's for discipline, or attitude, or team chemistry. We need something public, undeniable, immediate." "Monday's meeting is public," I said. "We make it undeniable." He looked at the laptop, then at me. "You're going to start a war." "It's already started," I said. "We just didn't admit it." Monday. The gym hummed before a single word was spoken. Players clustered at half court. Parents lined the bleachers, arms folded, eyes like storm storm glass. Sanders stood near the scorer's table, whistle hanging like a medal, Aiden beside him in a hoodie with the team logo stretched across his chest. "Thank you for coming," Sanders boomed, the voice of a man who practiced authority in the mirror. "As you know, we've had distractions this season. Truth isn't a distraction," someone muttered behind me. "And to restore focus, we're restructuring the roster." He lifted a sheet. "Varsity confirmations. Aiden Sanders." A smattering of claps. "Harris, Moore, Patel." He paused. Let the silence hook. "Players reassigned to junior varsity or released." He looked up at me, held my eyes for a notch too long. "Tyler Reed." Gasps. A thud of some parent's water bottle hitting the bleacher deck. Tyler's head dropped like someone had cut the string holding it up. I was already standing. "Coach," I said, voice too loud. "Before you release anyone, let's look at the foundation you're standing on." He tried to smile. "Sir, this isn't a Q&A. I'm not asking. I'm showing." I aircasted my screen to the scoreboard projector. The gym's white wall lit up. 2 video frames synced. Left, game footage. Right, official stats from the team website. I hit play. Tyler steals. Bucket. Scorekeeper's pencil moves. Ada. 0 help anywhere near the play. The online sheet. Tyler 0 points. Aiden +2. A murmur swelled into surf. I let the first clip finish and rolled the second, then the third. Each time, the left side contradicted the right side like a magician's reveal. This is how the trick is done. By clip 5, parents were on their feet. By clip 8, someone yelled, "You robbed my kid!" Someone else shouted, "He's been doing this all season!" Sanders' whistle bounced against his chest as he stepped forward. "Parents, sit down. You're disrupting. You're the disruption," Dana called, hands shaking. "You made me punish my own child for your son's highlight reel." Aiden looked like someone had lifted the floor beneath him. He reached for his dad's sleeve, whispering. The murmurs turned sharper, focused, like a lens finding its subject. I let the 9th clip play, then I paused the screen on a frame where the ball sat midway to the rim, frozen proof of a shot that never fell, and the stat sheet on the right declared it a make. "Explain this," I said. Sanders' mouth opened, closed, opened. "Stats are corrected post-game," he said finally. "Sometimes the bookkeeper misses. We review film and adjust. The bookkeeper didn't miss." I pulled out Mrs. Kirk's photos and threw them onto the scorer's table. "Your pen did the adjusting." The assistant coach, Martinez, who had been a statue until that moment, cleared his throat, loud enough to be opinion. "I can confirm the official book differs from online entries this season. I was told those were corrections. Seeing this, I can't support these numbers." It only took that. One adult in team gear saying he couldn't support this. The sound in the gym turned. It wasn't yelling anymore. It was choice. The kind that rearranges a room. Patel, who must have sprinted from his office when a staffer texted him, slipped in near the door and took it all in. The clips paused on the wall, the papers scattered, the faces turned like compasses finding north. He stepped down onto the court. "Coach Sanders," he said, voice steady. "Effective immediately. You are placed on administrative leave pending full investigation." "Coach Martinez, you'll run practices. Roster changes are suspended." Sanders stared at him as if he'd spoken a foreign language. Then he looked at me, and whatever mask he'd been wearing fell in a crack so quick I could feel the air change. "This isn't over," he said. "Not for you." Aiden tugged harder at his sleeve. "Dad." The whistle tapped his chest like a heartbeat gone wrong. He didn't come to practice the next day, or the day after. Martinez took over, and the air in the gym lightened, like someone had opened a window that had been painted shut. Boys ran, laughed, smacked backs. Tyler moved like a spring that had been compressed too long, finally let loose. In the first game of the post-Sanders era, he threaded passes through seams that didn't exist until the ball found them, finished at the rim like it owed him money, and dove on a loose ball that had 2 seniors staring at each other with that grin you only get when you remember why you love a game. The stat sheet matched the film. For 1 week, it felt like the end. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I usually don't pick up. I picked up. "You happy?" the voice said. "Gravel dragged across concrete. I gave 20 years to that program." "Coach," I said, "because who else could it be? You think you won because you played a slideshow?" He laughed once, a dry cough that wasn't a laugh at all. "You humiliated my family. You killed Aiden's chances." "You did that," I said. "Not me." A pause. "He had scouts. He had offers. Do you know what happens when one parent with a chip starts a digital wildfire? They disappear." "Offers?" I said. "You mean the emails you CC'd yourself on?" I FOIA'd the district inbox. There were 2 coaches asking for film. That's not a pipeline. That's curiosity silence. Then a click. That night, someone drove onto my lawn and did figure 8s until grass ripped from the roots. Tyler's gym bag appeared on our porch with every zipper cut. A landscaping rock went through the mailbox door. The ring camera caught a hooded figure, but not a face. The cops wrote a report and shrugged in the way cops do when you can see the paragraph already filed in a drawer labeled "Unknown Suspect." Tyler and I replaced the mailbox after practice. He slid bolts through the new box and sat on the curb, tired, happy from a win, dirty from digging. A boy and almost a man at once. "Do you ever," he started, then coughed into his sleeve. "Do you ever wish you'd left it alone?" I thought about lies so thick they suffocate people who breathe them. "You're sleeping better now, or worse?" He smiled without looking up. "Better. Me too," I said. The next threat didn't come as rubber on lawn. It came as bureaucracy. 3 days later, our athletic office emailed that Tyler had been flagged as academically ineligible. The message timestamp was 2:06 a.m. His math grade, a minus for months, had become a C overnight. The note at the bottom said, "Quiz re-entered." I drove to school before the coffee machine could finish a full drip. Tyler's math teacher, Ms. Cho, met me at her door with her laptop already open. "I didn't change his grade," she said before I spoke. "And I have 2 emails, 1:58 and 2:07 a.m., requesting I resubmit my gradebook to the athletic office because of a sync error. I didn't see them until morning." "Who sent them?" She turned the screen. The address was the generic athletics alias. The signature block, though, was the athletic coordinator's assistant, a clipboard type who had spent the last 5 years under Sanders' gravity. She paled as the principal and district IT arrived and pulled server logs. There it was. The grade change came from a login at 2:02 a.m. from an IP address that matched a printer in the coach's office. 4 minutes later, a second login attempted to hard refresh the gradebook to lock the change. Patel didn't sigh this time. He sent 2 emails, made 1 phone call, and by lunch there were district investigators in polos walking the hallway like Tide. Tyler's grade snapped back to an A-, his eligibility restored. The athletic office assistant cried. She said she'd forwarded an email from someone she assumed was the coordinator because the address looked similar on her phone. The coordinator, summoned from another building, swore she hadn't touched a thing. The district IT guy flagged the coach's office account and, by late afternoon, disabled it with a note about policy violations. I didn't say Sanders' name. I didn't have to. What I did say was, there's a game tomorrow night. We'll be there. It was the kind of game where you feel the baseline of the crowd in your chest. A conference rival with banners older than some teachers. A student section that roared even during warm-ups. I sat with the parents who had refused to go quiet. Dana squeezed my hand hard enough to turn knuckles white. Isaac leaned over and said, keep your phone ready. Not for stats. For whatever comes next. What came next, surprisingly, was basketball. Pure. Tyler controlled tempo like he'd swallowed a metronome. Not flashy, just inevitable. When the other team hedged, he turned the corner. When they sagged, he hit the pull-up. He found cutters like he'd been given a map. Aiden sat 3 rows up in the stands with a hood over his head and his father's set jaw under it. And for once, nobody watched him. With 2 minutes left, tie game, our sophomore center slammed home a putback so emphatic, the backboard stanchion shuddered. Crowd detonated. On the next possession, Tyler jumped a passing lane he'd been baiting since the first quarter. Took 1 dribble and laid it in off glass. We won by 4. The story should end there. It almost does. But when the buzzer sounded and the hugs and the high fives started, a movement in the corner of my eye jarred the frame. Near the exit tunnel, a figure in a staff windbreaker stepped behind the official scorer and leaned over the book like he was checking a recipe. The scorer turned her head. He walked away. I recognized the way he walked before I recognized the man. Shoulders trying to be smaller than they were. Head tipped just enough to make eye contact optional. Sanders. In the building he'd been told to stay away from. The staffer who'd let him in looked like a rabbit when the Hawk's shadow passes. I decided then that whatever part of me enjoyed the chess of this fight had to shut off. The game was over. We'd won. This part needed locks, not speeches. I walked to the security office. The SRO, Officer Lewis, was watching the camera grid with the posture of someone who wished the chairs were less plastic. I pointed. That staff member is supposed to be on leave. He's in the tunnel. Lewis keyed his radio and moved. I followed. Not because I was needed, but because I wanted to see something end. They found Sanders near the loading doors, hands in his pockets like pockets could hide him. Lewis spoke softly, the way you do when you know volume doesn't equal control. Sir, you've been instructed not to be on premises during leave. You'll need to go. Sanders looked past Lewis to me, and for the first time, his eyes weren't hard. They were tired. You think he's better off? He asked. It took me a second to realize he meant Aiden. Without me? Yes, I said. If with you meant this. He nodded once, as if some muscle in his neck had finally accepted a message it had been blocking for months. He let Lewis escort him out. The district's investigation concluded the following week. The report used polite words stacked like sandbags. Procedural irregularities, post-event alterations without authorization, misuse of district credentials, breach of athletic integrity. The recommendation was unambiguous. Termination for cause, bar from district athletics, referral to the State High School Association for sanction. The board voted unanimously. Patel announced it in a measured voice over the morning PA to staff, and the kids found out anyway because kids always do. The team met in the locker room. Martinez stood in front of them with a whistle he wore like a borrowed thing and said, "We're going to practice now." They did. Parents asked me if I'd sue. I said no. I wasn't interested in money. There are some holes you can pour money into and it never fills the right space. I wanted a wall built where a door had been. The report was a wall. There are still loose ends. There always are. Some families stopped making eye contact with me in the parking lot, not because they disagreed, but because it's easier to look away from a fire than admit you warmed your hands on it while someone else burned. Aiden transferred schools at semester. The rumor mill said his new coach was strict, fair, didn't care about old press clippings. I hope that's true. I hope the boy gets to play the game honest and find out who he is without anybody painting around the edges. Tyler sleeps now. That's my metric. He comes home from practice sore and happy, eats like a vacuum, knocks out on the couch with film on his phone and a dog asleep on his ankle, and I carry him, no, not carry, help him, to bed because he's taller than me now. And when did that happen? At the last home game of the regular season, the school held senior night. They did it for all the seniors, but the gym also needed something it hadn't had in months, a clean breath. The band blared. Cheerleaders spelled things with their arms. Parents walked their kids to half court and smiled for photos lit unevenly by gym lights that buzzed like tired bees. Before tip, Patel took the mic. He's not a showman, and I mean that as a compliment. He cleared his throat, and the band quieted like a dimmer switch. We've had a difficult season, he said. We've also had a courageous one. Athletics should teach character, not bend it. We are grateful for the students who keep showing up, for the families who hold us accountable, and for the staff who choose the harder right over the easier wrong. He didn't look at me, but he didn't need to. Let's play. They did. They won by 12. Tyler finished with 15 points and 11 assists that belonged to him, to the kid who made the pass, to the kid who caught it, to the scoreboard that told the truth without someone whispering in its ear. When the horn sounded, the student section poured down, and for a long minute, it felt like a movie that earned its swell. After, when the gym was almost empty, I stood at the top of the bleachers and watched the floor get swept. Martinez laughed with the custodian. The scorer packed her pencils. Patel gathered discarded programs. These people had gone through something and then kept going. That matters more than anything we post online. On the way out, we passed the trophy case. Most days I don't notice it. Tonight I did. Fingerprints smudged the glass. The district had wedged a photocopied statement next to last year's regional plaque. Statistical reporting protocols. Effective immediately. It was dry as toast and perfect. It told the future what the past had taught. In the parking lot, under sodium lights that turn everything the color of old photos, Tyler tossed me the ball and said, "1-on-1 to the car? Loser has to carry the gear?" I asked. He grinned. Deal. We played in the kind of shoes you shouldn't play in and the kind of air that smells like winter holding on. He beat me on a crossover he learned from YouTube and made his layup with a flourish he didn't need. I fouled him softly and pretended I didn't. He called it. I argued. We laughed. The echo bounced off the brick and came back a little softer, which is how echoes work and how life should too if you do it right. At home, he fell asleep on the couch the way he's been falling asleep since he was 5, half on a pillow, half on the remote, one sock missing. I set an extra blanket over him, walked to the porch, and looked at the new mailbox, the faint tire scars in the grass, the security camera's little blue LED blinking like a lighthouse for a harbor that finally had fewer rocks. In the morning, the team's social post went up. Not a graphic with flames around one kid's head, not a curated list of elite numbers, just a photo of a huddle with sweaty foreheads and goofy smiles, and the caption, "We found our game again." Comments below, hearts, thumbs up, names tagged, plans made for the next round. I turned off notifications and poured coffee. People will tell you sports build character. Maybe. Sometimes they only reveal it. This season, they did both. both. A man tried to bend the numbers until the truth looked like a trick mirror, and a bunch of teenagers, backed by a few parents who refused to wink at the lie, dragged the mirror back to flat. There's no statue for that outside the gym. There shouldn't be. The reward is quieter and better. A scoreboard that tells the truth, a box score that matches the film, a boy who sleeps, a game that belongs to the kids again, and a season that ends not with a headline, but with a gym key turning, lights clicking off one by one, and the knowledge that when it counted, we kept the lines straight.